What if the endless UTIs, constant fatigue, or always needing to find the nearest bathroom weren't random at all, but messages from your body? In this episode, Sarah shares the surprising fix for her decades of chronic urinary symptoms and the postpartum clues that uncovered Graves' disease. More importantly, she opens up about what it feels like to nearly lose trust in your body, to be dismissed again and again, and to keep searching anyway. So if you've been feeling like you're losing hope, this story will remind you why your body is worth trusting and how listening, even when answers feel out of reach, can change everything. This is a conversation about persistence, perspective, and rebuilding trust with your body. Sarah, thank you so much for joining us on an episode of the What's My Body Telling Me podcast. I wanted to start today by asking you, why did you want to come on and share your story today?
I guess for me, I've suffered a lot of different health issues over my life, and one particularly chronic one that thankfully got resolved in recent time. And I wanted, I guess, women like myself to know that just because you feel like you're not getting somewhere with something that's affecting your life in the health space doesn't mean you shouldn't keep trying. I know that it's exhausting, but keep trying to find the thing that works for you is important because it can actually really change your life. While it's not a life-threatening illness, things that bother you on a regular basis do impact your life. I know I at times nearly gave up on myself and trying to find out what was going on with certain parts, and I still have a bit of a journey left to go on finding out some solutions to other problems I have and working out what my body's telling me. But I really just wanted to give, I guess, a bit of hope to those who are struggling with a health issue by sharing my story.
And your health story is a really interesting one. So you mentioned that this chronic health condition has been recently resolved, which is amazing. So
Yeah.
what was the health issue and where did it all start? Like, when did you start to go, how I'm feeling, this surely isn't normal and I need to get this checked?
So it's been going a long time. It was roughly from my mid-teens. I noticed I was having a lot of urinary problems, either urinary discomfort, urinary irritation, urinary stinging, whatever you like to call it, just a real chronic issue. And to the point where there were times in my early 20s where I would be diagnosed with a UTI at least 6 times a year. So it
Wow.
was pretty chronic. So I went on, from roughly my mid teens through till basically my early 30s. And over that time, I saw multiple different GPs, different neurologists, any other specialists that the medical system would throw at me to
Mhm.
try and get a resolution. And like that would vary anything from lots of people get UTIs, you just have to deal with it, through to here's a low dose antibiotic. And I was on that for at one point for about when in my early 20s for about 2 years
So
until
2 years straight of an antibiotic.
yeah. And I decided that didn't feel right to me. So I decided that I was going to come off of that. And
When you
then,
were on that,
yeah,
did you notice that your symptoms changed? Were they
yeah,
less frequent?
they were less
Okay.
frequent. So
Yeah.
like, I don't know whether that was actually because it was helping or it was more a placebo effect, or I don't really know, to be honest.
Yeah.
Um, and then I've been on a medication called Hiprex. I was on that for about 3 years. And that
Mhm.
did help to some extent. I still got the occasional UTI. And so that just went on and on and on. I was pretty frustrated with the system at the time, feeling like nobody really cared about why it was happening. Everyone just wanted to give me something to stop the symptoms. I'm like, yeah, but this keeps occurring so frequently, and I was getting pretty frustrated.
Mm.
Then thankfully I had to move for work and then found a new GP, and she was really brilliant. She clearly had read all my history, and she sort of looked me in the eye and said, "You don't have anything major going on here, but what's been happening?" So then I started explaining what had been going on, and she was genuinely interested, which I hadn't had a lot from doctors. They just wanted to prescribe another antibiotic and just send me on my way. And she said, "I did see a lot of urinary things in your past. I've looked through all your results. They rarely grew cultures." I was like, "Oh,
Mm.
so they've been giving me antibiotics for something they couldn't actually see a culture for."
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Were they doing any urinary testing? Like, so were they looking for there is
Yeah.
actually bacteria that's growing, or were they just like, oh, you've got the stinging, you've got the burning, you've got the bladder urgency, it must just be a UTI, here's some antibiotics?
Yeah, it was a little bit of that. And then they would take the sample. They'd clearly send it away, but they weren't then informing me that the results were not growing
Oh,
cultures.
okay.
So I was
Okay.
just left on the course antibiotics, and then because things would eventually clear, and then I'd move on. So she was pretty interested by all that, which was awesome. And she knew a specialist in the area I'd moved to that actually was more specialized in gynecological and urinary interactions. So a bit more in that field, was really interested in it. So I went in and saw her, and because my mum had a history of endometriosis, she eventually just said, do you want to go in and have a look? Are you willing if we do some surgery, are you willing to go in and have a look? And I was at the point where I was like, I am willing to give anything a go at this point. And she felt trustworthy and like someone I could interact with. So I went, yeah, you know what, let's do this. And then interestingly, after the surgery, said, so you got no endometriosis, but you had this really bizarre bladder tethering that was like limiting the movement of your bladder.
So bladder tethering, for those who don't know what that is, how would you describe that? What does that mean?
It's also, so if you think of like the usual picture of, it's obviously not how it actually sits in your body, but the usual picture you see of like your bladder space.
Mhm.
And when it's full, it kind of blows up like a little balloon. Is like off the sides, there were these like particularly two big like tethers that were linking my bladder to other areas in my body.
Mm.
And basically all she did is while she was in there, she just cut them away. And said, and her hypothesis was that when my bladder was filling because of these tellers, it was actually getting inflamed.
Mhm.
And so I couldn't fill my bladder fully before needing to void. And then that was also the inflammation in my bladder was actually creating the stinging sensation that I was getting a lot, and probably why there was no cultures growing, because it wasn't actually an infection that was causing the
It was
stinging.
more of a mechanical, structural thing. I suppose it's
Yes.
sort of like imagining you set up a tent and you've got the guy ropes and it's like,
Yeah.
oh,
And
they're
they're too
pulling
tight
really tight.
and they're pulling too hard. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it was like. So,
Yeah.
and at first I thought, oh, it'll be interesting to see if this actually works. So I had that done. When was that? That was mid 23. And I have only had one actual UTI since then. So
Wow.
that for someone who was getting them that frequently, to go down to one since then was pretty phenomenal. And being able to
Mm.
actually get my bladder completely full before needing to go to the toilet, rather than only getting halfway full or three-quarters full and then having to go, that has been a bit of a game changer. Plus some
Mm.
pelvic floor physio wrapped in with that.
Yeah. So I guess before we got on this call, you were
Mm.
you were mentioning you've been reading more of my book and also
Yeah.
learning more about your body and learning more about
Mm-hmm.
what's actually healthy and
Yeah.
normal and the sign that your body is in a great state, what I call
Mm-hmm.
green flags, and also
Mm.
what signs that there might be something a little bit wrong, like a beige flag or something that you need to get
Yeah.
investigated for, like a red flag. How did you navigate going, okay, this bladder urgency isn't actually normal? Because I see a lot of women. For
Yeah.
instance, yesterday I actually went to a breathwork class and they're like, oh, does anyone need to go to the toilet? Go now before we
Yeah.
start. A
Yeah.
couple of people went, and then after the session so many people needed to go to the toilet, and I was like, oh, I don't have any urgency to go to the toilet. I think
Yeah.
there's a belief that like women need to go to the toilet all the time. I'm not
Yeah.
sure whether that's just something that I've seen in my reality. So
Yeah.
how did you go like, okay, this isn't actually normal?
I think the big thing for me was particularly in my 20s when I hadn't had a child, and I would have situations where I'd actually wet myself in public.
Mm.
I got very good at covering that situation up. I also got very good, it was a mental load, but I got very good at identifying where all the toilets were at any time. It definitely affected how I would plan my day, because I would actually think out, like my husband would say, like, so it's a bit later, this is my early 30s. He'd be like, let's go to the shopping center. I'd be like, I actually don't know where any of the toilets are there. And that made
Mm.
me uncomfortable. So I'd be like, can we go to this other one instead? Because I know where they all are.
Mm.
So it was definitely those kind of thoughts. I'm like, other people don't do that. Like even my friends that might have had some urinary issues, they didn't do that. They weren't worried
Mhm.
about where the next toilet was. I'm like, that's not normal. So
And then I guess it's then you going, it's not normal, and I can do something about it, not
Yeah.
that's not normal and this is just what I'm destined for. This is
Mm.
just me, I suppose.
Yeah, and there were definitely like like it was a that the duration we've just talked about is like nearly 20 years, right? So there were
Mm.
definitely times where I did think like that, where I did think this is just it for me, and then I would sort of get this little spurt on of no, this is not okay, and then either find a new doctor or try a new urologist. But it wasn't unusual that I'd get to like to see a urologist, and they'd get me to do a urine sample, and they'd say, "Oh, there's nothing growing in there." I'm like, "Well, I could have told you that."
Oh.
But then they go, well, I can't help you. And I go, that was an actual conversation I did have with one urologist, which was really
Mm.
disappointing. But it was kind of the bonus that a couple of times I've had to move for work over the years. And as a result, have found new GPs. And sometimes that's actually been almost reinvigorating in a way because you go, oh, and particularly the last one I saw that was actually really helped me out. So that was
Mm.
like, I know sometimes we can get a little bit stuck in but this is my GP and I've been seeing them forever. And sometimes it's actually worth breaking out from that and going to see someone new, try to see if you can find someone with a different perspective. Um,
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of newness in
yeah,
any way of our lives, whether it's where in your instance, it's like, oh, okay, I needed different perspectives and also to gain a different perspective for yourself as well. Like if you held the perspective and the belief that, well, this is just me and I'm just unlucky and this is my body,
mm,
then that perspective wouldn't have led you to find different doctors and keep searching and having that belief that, hey, actually, no, this is my body trying to tell me that there is something going on and I don't have to put up with this,
yeah,
and then finding someone else. But I also think it's a really cool thing to have a perspective in our life where it's like, oh, when we try different things or when we change different things in our life, our body also changes too because we're changing
yeah,
our perspective. So that's, yeah, I love that point that you just made, Sarah.
yeah. So that definitely helped.
Did you, because bladder tethering, I'm not a urologist or a gynecologist, but it's not something that many people talk about. It's not,
No.
I wouldn't say it's, I think a lot of people now talk about endometriosis, and that's what you
Yep.
mentioned the surgery was initially for.
Yes.
Had you heard of bladder tethering before? Had you done your own Dr. Google and come across it and been like, maybe this is what's happening?
No, I hadn't seen it anywhere. And I didn't, I try not to do too much doctor Googling myself, just because I know there's a lot out there and not all of
Mm.
it comes from a reputable resource. And my background is obviously not in medicine, but I have done quite a lot of uni. And I guess that has taught me to be a bit skeptical of where your information is coming from and to check that. And sometimes Google doesn't give you a clear understanding of where that information is coming from and if it is a reputable place. So I tend to avoid that. But even in the few times I have looked online about urinary issues, I had never seen anything or anyone talk about bladder tethering as a possibility. And I don't think, and the doctor who did my surgery didn't expect to find that either. She was seriously expecting to see, noting a bit of family history with it, she was expecting to see endometriosis.
Yeah. Were you It's interesting that you mentioned she was expecting to see endometriosis.
Mm.
Did you also have menstrual symptoms? Like, what
Yes.
was your menstrual cycle like?
So at the time, I was just coming off the pill. I'd been on the pill since I was mid-teens, and that was to try and regulate my cycle. So my cycle
Mm.
was pretty wild. It was anywhere from like a short sort of 16 days out to like a 34 days, which was pretty stressful as a teenager, trying to
Mm.
navigate life at that age and all the hormonal changes. So I went on the pill then, and then I was on that consistently during that time. And it wasn't until my husband and I got married and I decided to come off the pill in order to try and have a baby. And since having my child, I have actually stayed off the pills since then. And my cycle's still, it's not as bad as it used to be, but it's still a little off, admittedly. So it's one of those
Mhm.
little beige flags that I read about in your
Yes,
book.
yes, yes. So when you're mentioning that you went on it to
Mm.
regulate your cycles, even though we
Yeah,
know that it doesn't regulate them.
controls them.
Yes, exactly. When you came off, the time between coming off the pill and falling pregnant, what was going on in your mind then, and how was the journey of fertility and falling pregnant, your cycles between then? How
Yeah.
did you find that?
I didn't have a huge amount of cycles between coming off the pill and getting pregnant, actually. I only had about two or three. But I don't think they had still really settled on anything after being on the pill for so long. And then I got pregnant. So there wasn't a lot of time to kind of see what my cycle was doing in
Mhm.
that period. So it was still a little all over the place, but I kind of expected that because I'd just come off being on the pill
Mhm.
for like over 15 years. So
But clearly you were ovulating because you fell pregnant.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, very lucky for someone in their mid-30s and husband in their early 40s that we fell pregnant that easily. It was very,
Yeah. Well, I
very,
think it's a great story to tell because often we only hear of the tough stories,
yeah,
which is great because we need to have awareness of them. But if we're only hearing that story, then we think that that's the reality and that's what's going to happen, which if I talk a lot about energetics and things as well, but whatever you believe,
yeah,
often that's where your reality will go. We know this from placebo effect. So
yeah,
it's really lovely and nice. I always love to hear people's stories that are different from the
yeah,
usual that we hear because it helps people go, oh, well, there is actually other possibilities that can happen.
yeah,
So it's amazing and great. And some might call it lucky, some might not. So it's just it's yeah, I think it's really great that that was the reality that happened for you. Yes, it doesn't happen
yeah,
for everyone, but it's nice for everyone that's listening to go like, oh, okay, that is a possibility.
yeah. It definitely wasn't expected because we just kind of assumed, because you're right, you do hear a lot of the stories about when things don't go well for people, and we had heard a few. So we kind of assumed that it wouldn't be an easy journey, and then everything went pretty smoothly. So we were pretty stoked in that regard because we thought we might
Mm.
have to wait a while, and we're only getting older. And it was
Yes,
wonderful
all
to have
the
the
time pressures and trying to have the life that you want to live and all of those different things that are
yeah,
happening in the back of your mind. It
yeah,
sounds like, and a lot of the stories that I hear and the women that I see, and just like yourself, there's this undertone of trust, the theme of trust.
yeah,
It's whether there's a trust in someone that you found, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to trust them and they seem like they know what they're doing, or I distrust all these other people. But
yeah,
then also the trust that you have in yourself.
yeah.
How how do you navigate self-trust?
It's a really interesting question. I think for me personally, it has, as I've gotten older, I probably trust myself more than what I did in my 20s. And I would say even over that time, that hasn't been consistent. It's like ebbed and flowed. So
Mm.
there are times when, you know, like I'd just seen a doctor who said there's nothing wrong with you, nothing in your results, and you go, oh my God, I'm losing my mind. I I don't know what my body's doing. I don't understand. And you sort of find yourself in this place of not trusting. And then, you know, like one of those moments where, you know, once I got over the initial shock of I've wet myself in public and I'm in my 20s, this sucks. And I'd be like, you know what? No, this isn't right. I should trust myself. This isn't right in my body. And then go out and surge and then try and find a way to help my body help itself, sort of thing, whatever method that might be. So I think for me, just as I've gotten older, I feel like I've gotten a little bit more. I'm not putting up with this. This is not the way life should be. And even if the medical system hasn't quite worked out yet what's going on with me, this isn't something I'm prepared to keep living with. So I trust that my body is telling me it's not right because it's not right.
Mm. And that's an amazing, I think that's the biggest empowerment. I know a lot of I sometimes see two different types of people if I want to put it into two different buckets. And I've also experienced this myself, and it could be, for instance, with finance, an area that I'm not trained in. You could
Mm,
be like, I just want to find someone who knows what they're doing, an expert, and they're going to tell me what I need to do, and I just need to trust them fully.
yeah,
And I have no idea. It's out of my control. When I come from that perspective, it's really scary,
yeah,
anxiety inducing, and you're basically giving away your power
yes,
instead of going, okay, I trust myself and I also trust myself to find the right guides and the right people who
yeah,
have a lot more knowledge and information in this area than I do. But I ultimately trust that I am the decision maker
yeah,
and I will know what's right for me. And I
yeah,
think that's exactly what you've just described there with healthcare. Sometimes I see people that come to me like, I just want you to tell me exactly what's going on.
yeah,
It's like, well, the first question that I always ask is, what do you reckon your body's trying to tell you with your symptoms?
yeah.
And that automatically, I think, is the thing that I want to instill in people. And it seems like you have this from your 20-year-long journey.
Yeah.
Is it's like, oh, okay, I've learnt time and time and time again that I have to come back to trust myself and trust my body.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's a real bitch trying to find someone that can help me. Let's pause for a body break. Not to fix or change anything, but simply to be with yourself. You made it here, and that is enough. So gently place your hand wherever it feels most comforting. It might be your heart, your belly, hand in hand, and let your breath rise to meet it. You are safe. You are supported. Your body is speaking to you with love, and you're allowed to slow down, listen, and meet yourself here.
Yeah, exactly. It is. And I wouldn't say I've got it all in hand all the time. Like, I think anytime like a new symptom arises, occasionally you kind of go back to that place of, oh, what's going on? I'm losing my mind. And probably because of my previous experiences, I can more quickly pull myself back into a place of, no, trust yourself. There's something not right here. That kind of thing. A more recent experience of that for me was finding out I had an autoimmune disease post pregnancy. And I was having a lot of symptoms around dizziness and a bit depressed and anxious, which are not symptoms I've ever had before. And I was immediately sent to seek some mental health support, but I was still like, this still doesn't feel right. And so I just kept pushing, and eventually bloods showed I had an autoimmune disease, and I was like, okay. But I know the what, but I still don't fully understand the why, admittedly, with that one. But I did, that it was just a bit of an assumption that it was postnatal depression, anxiety, and mental health support would fix it. The mental health support was great, but it wasn't the only thing that was going on. So,
Yeah.
but initially, again, sort of went to a place of thinking I was just fatigued, new mum, and not trusting myself. And then after a bit, I went, no, this isn't right, and just kept pushing until I got at least some help to get me sort of heading on the right track.
Which is, that comes back to trusting yourself and trusting, okay, this isn't normal. This is surely not how I'm meant to feel. Because again, I see a lot of, I myself haven't been lucky enough yet to have a child of my own.
Yeah.
But there's this context and societal norm that's been created that, well, you're a new mum. You're going to be tired and depleted and fatigued and have no energy. Of course, because you've got this new human that you need to wake up and feed all the time, and they're attached to you all the time, and you basically sort of lose a bit of your identity because you're just focused on keeping this other thing alive.
Yeah.
And it's like you just have to forget about yourself and not prioritize yourself at all.
Yeah, and that's like, even if people weren't saying that to me directly, that's societal, I guess, expectation on new mums definitely was not helpful in that situation, and I had to work through that and trust myself in order to get to a point of pushing the medical system to go, this isn't right for me. This isn't normal. And there were some early key indicators that I didn't pick up on at the time that I should have in hindsight, or I really wasn't in a position to because I was tired. But I was really fit before getting pregnant. My heart rate sat fairly low normally. So when they were telling me my resting heart rate was sitting sort of mid 70s, gusting 80, I was like, I should have tweaked, like, knowing that previously it had been sitting closer to 60. I was like, that probably should have been an indicator for me and them, really, that something wasn't right. But everyone just kind of went, it's still in the healthy range. So,
but it was different from your norm. And the autoimmune disease, I'm guessing, is Graves.
Yes.
Yeah. So Graves' disease is where the thyroid works faster than it ideally does. And the thyroid is that, I think of it as the conductor of an orchestra, and all of the organs of your body are like the different instruments of an orchestra. So it's picking the pace. Is it going fast? Is it going slow? So often when it's it's a fast conductor, it's a fast thyroid, your heart rate's going to increase, which is exactly what you've said there. And often we think faster, we think our brain works faster. What happens when our brain's working faster? We feel quite anxious. We're feeling hot. Everything's just more, like fast.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh. So, and that can lead to fatigue and then cycles of depression because you're like, I'm just exhausted and I haven't had a rest because my conductor is working overtime.
Yeah.
I need to just slow down. Let's have a slow song now
Yeah.
instead of
Um,
going fast and fast and fast.
yeah. And pre getting diagnosed with it, I kind of like I'd heard of a thyroid, like wasn't completely I guess ignorant to its existence, but I had no idea how much of the body function it actually touches
Hmm.
and the significant impact it can have when it's not functioning the way it should.
Yeah.
That was, and it was pretty scary because I actually was getting quite ill towards the end before I got to see a specialist, and they realized really fully what was going on. Um, and
When you
yeah,
mean quite ill, can you explain a
so
bit more about that?
I think the day, so when I when they got the results in at my at the medical center I go to, they called me immediately and they're like, we need to get you into a specialist. We need to get you in now. I'm like, oh, okay. I said, I'm actually on the way to a friend's wedding, but sure. So they organized me a specialist appointment to get in straight away when I got back. So I knew it was fairly serious. And then I had to do some extra testing, which was complicated by the fact I was still breastfeeding
Mm.
to confirm what was happening. And then it was only it was about 5 days later, I got a phone call and all the results had come back in from the specialist. And they were actually like clearly on a train heading somewhere. So they were just like, had been checking the reports on their phone. And she's like, you need to start that medication I gave you and you need to start it now. And you need to go into the office and get a script off one of my colleagues and you need to start that one now as well. I'm like, oh, okay. And that was kind of all I got. And it was just like, it's very important you start this immediately. I'm like, okay. And it turns out it was a medication called carbimazole to help with the thyroid function, and it was propranolol to help with my heart rate. So went and got that, and then when I got in to see, so started the medication, fairly quickly started to feel better actually, because I was like when I say I wasn't feeling that well that day, I got the call from the specialist. I couldn't drive. I felt so unwell. I
Mm.
took an Uber to get my facial. Felt better after lying down at my facial. Got back in an Uber to come home, and I could barely get in the door, and I collapsed on the bed. And my husband had to help me get onto the bed while hanging onto my daughter. So it was pretty crazy. But after about 5 days of being on the medication, I started to feel a bit better, which is good. Started to feel a bit more in balance. And then when I went in and saw the specialist, she goes, "So I'm pretty sure you were heading into thyroid storm, which means you could have ended up with heart failure and very, very serious situation." And I was like, "Oh, okay." Like I knew it was bad, but I just hadn't fully understood
Mm.
it was that bad until I went and spoke to her. But she said, "Good thing is everything seems to be heading in the right direction." I'm like, okay. Um, so it was a pretty wild moment, really. Um, so and in hindsight, it's like I really should have pushed earlier to get more of the bloods done and stuff with my GP to really highlight what was going on. But I kind of was tired, as we talked about, and depressed and anxious and had a lot going on with a newborn that I wasn't in a position
Yeah.
to advocate for myself at the time. But
And
I
I
still
think, I
knew
think,
something was not right.
yeah. And I think it's, yes, advocating for yourself, but also society
Mm,
needing to hear stories like this.
yeah.
And doctors also, like, you learn a lot in university, and I'm sure in your degree you also do too.
Yeah.
But whenever you're actually in the profession that you're in, you learn so much from
Yeah.
that. It's like that doctor that saw you is like, I am never going to forget this lady. And this
Yeah.
is what's going to remind me every time I see someone that is pregnant or postpartum. I'm going to make sure I run these tests. Yes, they feel fatigued.
Yeah.
Yes, they're not sleeping as well. Yes, they've had all these different changes. And also, physiologically, their body has changed drastically. And we do know that you're at a heightened chance of having thyroid issues if there's certain imbalances that are happening underneath the surface. And it can come out in this postpartum phase. So, yeah, maybe you're tired because you've got a newborn and you're not sleeping as you were.
Yeah.
But also, maybe it's because of this. And we need to do our job and
Yeah.
test these things. So, there is yes, we need to advocate for ourselves,
Yeah.
but also there's this larger societal understanding that we get when we hear stories like this, and we go, okay, that's actually not normal to feel.
Yeah.
Like, it's normal to notice some changes, but to have, as you said, like, oh my gosh, my heart rate was so much higher than it was beforehand. Maybe there's something going on here. And it's just going and getting tested. I believe that everyone postpartum should be getting an assessment of these physiological changes that happen in the body,
Yeah,
regardless of the symptoms that are there, because your body's
yeah,
undergone one of the biggest changes it will ever undergo in your life.
yes, yeah, absolutely.
How many times have you been told everything looks fine while you still feel exhausted, bloated, anxious, have skin issues, period pain, and totally feel off? Without saying it, people are thinking it's all in your head. But you know something isn't right. Your body knows it too. And let me tell you, your symptoms, they aren't random. They're messages. Messages that blood tests don't always pick up because they only show a snapshot in time. Great when you're bad enough to need medication or surgery, not so great when you want to make sense of your body. If you really want to understand what's happening beneath the surface, that's where Test Your Fundamentals comes in. This isn't just another test, it's a functional health tool that gives you real answers. Using HDMA or hair tissue mineral analysis, it gives you a 3-month report card of how your body's been functioning, internally and externally, showing exactly why you're feeling the way you do. Unlike standard blood work, HDMA can detect nutrient imbalances, heavy metals, and deficiencies that could be wreaking havoc on your hormones, mood, metabolism, and gut. So instead of guessing what supplements you need or throwing money at another miracle diet, this gives you real, personalized answers about what your body actually needs. Here's how it works. You'll get a personalized HDMA test, a breakdown of your results in plain English, access to practitioner quality supplements, and a step-by-step lifestyle recommendations tailored to your 4 fundamentals. So you know exactly how to support your body your way. Your body isn't broken and it's always working for you. You just need the right tools to listen. That's what Test Your Fundamentals gives you. So if you're ready to stop guessing and start taking action, head to femalefundamentals.com.au and order your Test Your Fundamentals hair test today. There's also a link in our show notes.
And I know since going back into the workplace, when I come across other women who have recently had kids and they start talking about their issues, I'm just immediately like, have you had your thyroid tested?
Oh.
You should ask for that because I know after obviously reading up on it a little bit since my diagnosis, I know that hypothyroidism is pretty common and often can peter out after about 12 months. But hyperthyroidism is not quite as common, and that's why even my doctor professed she wasn't looking for it because it wasn't as common. You usually see the hypo a bit more frequently. So, or
Yeah.
even whether that's actually the case or not, and that's just a belief that's out there, is it was sort of holding back that diagnosis a bit as well, getting that earlier.
It's sometimes a bit of the chicken or the egg. Maybe it's not there as much because we don't check for it as much because we have the belief, or where did that belief come in the first place? Maybe it was because we were checking for it and it wasn't as common.
Yeah.
Yes, there's so many different variables that come, but I think the moral always is coming back, listening to your body, trusting it and going, this doesn't feel normal.
Yeah.
Surely I'm not just meant to be surviving and getting by
Yeah.
just because I'm a new mum in this instance, or just because it's like, oh, okay, yeah, it's like normal to have to figure out where the toilets are in this supermarket or this
Yeah.
shopping center. It's like, this doesn't feel right. Like, we all have that feeling inside us, like that doesn't feel right. And then it's going, okay, what can I do about it to
Yeah.
help with this? So it is finding someone that is actually going to look at you and go, oh, okay, yes, I agree. This isn't something that you need to put up with. We need to find what that is. And then just making things simple. And that's where I try and, with the functional health, talk about the 4 fundamentals. And when we care for them, it just removes a lot of the sort of confusion about what the hell am I meant to be doing. I guess that's a question for you now. Obviously, I'm not sure whether you still are on the medications or not, but navigating this, okay, yes, you've told me that this is what's going on. I've got this Graves' disease. I know the what, as you said before. I know the
Yes.
what, but I'm trying to now figure out the why. How are you navigating that path?
Fairly new to me looking at, I guess, from having a background in engineering and thinking about systems. And there's always usually a why in that regard. And I guess I've only, since reading your book and following on Instagram, I've kind of only started to think about the fact that there's probably a bigger reason for that, plus a host of, because that's my big red flag is an autoimmune disease, but I've got a host of other beige flags as per your book, whether that's occasional acne breakout, dermatitis, IBS, the list goes on, that I need to kind of pull together and spend some time trying to understand what the why is there. And I admit that's still a journey for me at the moment. And
Mm.
I haven't quite gotten to the point where I understand what that is. But while if someone asked me right now if I was stressed, I'd probably say no. Again, after sort of reading more of your book, I think I've realized I'm actually under quite a bit of stress quite a lot of the time, and I have just found coping mechanisms to deal with it.
That's the beauty of the body. We love to adapt until we keep adapting in a way that's not helpful.
And I suspect that's probably where I am actually at, and we'll probably need to seek some more support to try and work out how best to change those patterns. And it was something else I read interesting in your book as well. I'm spruiking your book quite a lot here. I really do like it. But there's a part in it about is some of your stuff hereditary, or is it just more, because of the external environment you put yourself in, because that's the external environment you grew up in. And if I look at some of the habits of my parents or even my grandparents and levels of stress they probably carried, it was also probably quite high. So now I'm sort of wondering, is that just some environmental things I'm used to being in that I can't even really see yet
Mm.
that's causing some of that? So I think there's potentially quite a lot going on, that sort of probably a few different things that are the whys as to why some of my health conditions are the way they are, but I haven't quite worked those out yet. So that's still a journey for me.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of it, right? There's no end point.
No.
And this is how I view the body and our symptoms. Is it's just like, oh, it's just giving us feedback in whether we're in alignment with things that are working for it and it feels nourished and cared for, or we're out of alignment and it's like, well, you've been out of alignment a little bit, I'm going to give you a slightly beige flag. Oh, you've been out of alignment for a while, I'm going to give you a brighter beige flag, and now I'm going to give you a red flag.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, okay, it's just viewing the symptoms and our body and how we feel in that way. And it's a really, really interesting thing that you talk about, that nervous system point. Even myself, I wrote the darn book, and I know the year that I wrote the book, I'd also moved states. I'd also moved states and countries in the years before that. And I was studying 2 masters, and then I studied a functional medicine course. And then I was also launching my own business, and I was doing all these things. I'm like, oh yeah, like that's a really smart idea to do all those things at once. Probably not, but I'm glad that I did it. But if I look back at that, I'm like, I knew that I was stressed. I knew that I was going to bed at 1 a.m. in the morning and then waking up at 5 to fit everything in.
Yeah.
All of my mind was just racing. I could tell that I was stressed then. But subsequently, outside of that, when things have morphed and changed, I obviously don't need to write the book anymore, but there's always going to be different things that come about in life. And it's interesting. I'm like, oh no, I'm not stressed because I'm not that stressed. I'm comparing to how I felt then. I'm like, oh, no, I'm not. And then it's like, okay, well, if you were lying on the beach with a cocktail or a mocktail next to you and everything was taken care of, how stressed do you feel in comparison to that? It's like, oh, okay, right. So we sort of get normalized to the level that we have. And that's exactly what you were talking about. It was like, oh, maybe like that was the environment that I grew up in.
Yeah.
That's actually just how everyone is sort of a little bit worried about the house has to be really clean and tidy when someone comes over, or we have to have dinner at this certain time, or we have to look a certain way, or we have to, like, all of these little things that actually are beliefs that we hold that can cause our body to feel stressed. And one thing that actually has become apparent for me, and I'm happy to say this year I've actually been so good at doing the reverse, because I noticed how much it was impacting my life and how much it wasn't working for me, is being busy.
Yeah.
Because busyness, it's like, oh, okay, well, you're striving, or look how much you're doing and this is amazing, and like you're such like an inspiration, or you're doing these things. And I actually started to get really frustrated when people would say that to me. I'm like, I'm not busy. I'm not too busy to connect with people. What are you talking about? And I'm like, oh, actually, everything that I'm doing, I have to fill my time. I can't possibly rest. What about all
Yeah.
these different things that you're doing? It's like, no, 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 no. It's okay. I actually don't, feeling busy isn't a normal state. And yes, having your own business, or maybe in your case, being a mum, that means that you're going to be stressed. You're going to be tired. You're going to be whatever the beliefs are that you attach to, in my case, running my own business, in your case, being a mum or being a wife, or whatever the identity that you have is.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, that belief that I have to be stressed and busy because I have my own business, actually, I don't want that. How about I go, well, how cool that I don't have someone telling me what I need to do. I'm the one telling me what to do. I get to choose, and I get to choose how I do it. I get to choose how I feel about this.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, no, busy is no longer in my vocabulary, even though I've said it quite a few times in the last couple of minutes. But it's like, okay, it's like, okay, yeah, my plate's full with these things, and I get to choose what it's full with. And
Yeah.
that doesn't mean I'm in a rush with these things that it's full with. So it's like, oh, okay, I can still do this in a way that actually feels so much better. But I'm not sure about you, Sarah. When we make changes that are different from the patterns that we've been running, like for me, I'm like, okay, no, I'm just going to sit outside and eat my lunch on the grass instead of sitting behind my laptop or making calls or doing different things. I'm just going to do that. In the initial stages, it feels weird and it does not feel good. I'm like, this is stress inducing that I'm doing this. Like, this is not calming me down.
Mm.
But actually, the more I do it, I'm like, oh, and then the more you change your behaviors and habits, and the more you realize, oh, I actually am okay, and the sky didn't fall and
Mm.
everything's fine. And I actually am starting to feel better, and my acne is going away, or my skin's not flaring up as much. It's like, my body obviously likes this,
Yeah.
and I can do it a different way. Yeah.
Yeah. I still struggle with that. Young child, you know, being present for my partner, working full time, trying to fit in exercise. I don't always do well at that. Probably, I'm definitely better at it now than probably when I was younger, actually, though. And I guess now not studying helps. I also have done a degree and then later on 2 masters back to back, one while working full time and then one while studying full time. It was my husband and I reflect on our relationship to date. We've been together for a while now, and I think every year there's been something big happening. I'm hoping we find a year soon where it's a little less big life decisions happening, whether it's
Oh,
study, marriage, child coming into our life, what have you. You know, pretty pretty hectic job for me right now. Um,
yeah.
so hopefully we can find a better balance. But even just every now and then, finding a moment just to lie on the floor, even if it's only for 5 minutes. Yes, it does feel weird for someone who is constantly, yeah, that term of busy. But I've been slowly getting better at that because
Mm.
I have realized the value in it. Or even just occasionally throwing my child in the pram and say, we're going for a 30-minute walk. I just need to get outside. This is what we're doing.
Mm.
And sometimes it feels like there isn't time for that, but I have been finding it. It does exist. Sometimes you just got to, as you say, choose what's on your plate,
Yeah.
reprioritize what you've got there, take some stuff off and go put that in the fridge. That's for later. I'll
Put
just
it on
focus
ice.
on, put it on ice. It can be delayed. I can just focus on what I really just need on my plate right now.
Yeah. And I think I know for me and a couple of the people in my life as well, when they've adapted this new belief, is that I have now this belief that feeling good is a natural and normal state. That's the baseline state,
Yeah.
not a reward for doing something.
Mm.
It's like, oh, yes, I'll feel good when I've done these 2 masters. I've cleaned the kitchen. I've gone for a walk. It's like, well, you can feel good whilst doing them.
Mm.
Like, there's no, because then otherwise we get stuck in this loop, and
Yeah.
then that loop just keeps going, 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 going. It's like, okay, well, yeah, there's certain things that, like, well, you have to cook a meal,
Yeah.
right? It's like, well, you have to eat. Well,
Yeah.
how can I do that in a way that feels good to me?
Yeah.
And today It's like, well, what feels good to me is that I get to like cook this nourishing meal that feeds a whole family, and I've got time, so I'm going to spend hours, I'm going to put music on, and that feels good to me.
Yeah.
Other times it might be like, what's going to feel good to me is that we're getting Uber Eats takeaway,
Yes.
and that feels good to me. But it's like it's just going with, there's no right or wrong,
Yeah.
rigid, because then we don't allow the adaptability and the flexibility of our life to come about. And that's where we get stuck in this, well, oh, it's all right to struggle and feel terrible, like, because that's what you have to do to get to this thing. And then you
Yeah.
just get stuck in this loop. But when we get to go back and go, okay, well, what's going to work and what's not going to work for me at this point in time? Great. And that exact phrase is a way that you can step away from that identity of like, well, this is how my family did it and that's what we do. It's like,
Yeah.
well, maybe that doesn't work for me anymore. Doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It just means it doesn't work for me at the moment. Maybe
Yeah.
it might tomorrow, but it doesn't now.
Yeah. And I think I like that idea of being adaptable and changing what is working for you in that moment. And I know sometimes, I guess, with my fairly logical brain, sometimes you can get in that sort of, there's a danger of getting stuck in that like ones and zeros type space of, but this is what works, because sometimes it doesn't. And I guess that nuance has come as I've gotten older. If you had asked me in my 20s, I would have been like, well, this is what you do and this is how you do it, thinking I knew the world and how it all worked. But I think as I've gotten older, I've gotten a bit better at playing in that grey space, not being so stuck in the, it's either this way or it's this way. And that has definitely helped. And I also do think, for me particularly, because of the way my personality it can get a little rigid, having a child has actually helped in that regard a bit. So just get flexible. This is what's happening today, and this is what will work today, and that's okay. And tomorrow it may not work, and that's also okay. Just got to be flexible in finding that thing that works at that time.
Yeah, I love that sentiment.
Mm.
Sarah, thank you so much for your time and the very, very interesting journey that you've been on, sharing everything. I know a lot of the listeners will be really feeling inspired to trust themselves and listen to what it is. Keep trying to find someone that might have the answers for you, and ultimately just trusting and knowing that what's right for your body and what's not right for your body. And yeah, just really holding themselves in that journey. Now, I love to end each of these episodes with our final question,
Yeah.
which is, what does listening to your body mean to you today?
I think it comes back to what we've talked about, and finding the space to trust myself and to trust what's going on in my body. And I guess, yeah, understanding that just because a thing is happening doesn't mean it has to be forever, and that you should trust and just understanding that if it doesn't feel right, it's probably not. And just to steal your own lines, just because it's common doesn't make it normal. And that, I feel like, is something I've been learning as I've been getting older, and that's kind of what it means to me in that regard. Just understanding that trust, understanding just because it's common doesn't mean it's normal, and to keep looking for what works for you to bring you back to a place of feeling good.
Amazing. Sarah, thank you so much for your time. I can't wait for this episode to get into everyone's ears. I know I've learned a lot from this conversation, so thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Please remember, this episode is for educational purposes only. Always consult a qualified health practitioner before making any medical decisions. Every body is different, and so is every healing journey.